Hello everyone, I am Dr. Tejas. I have secured an All India rank of 354 in this year's NET PG, jumping from the last year's 94,000 rank. Today, I will be talking about how I approached my first read, how I studied, how I stayed consistent, and what mistakes I made. But before starting, one important thing, if you are doing something different and if it's working for you, then stick to your plan and take this video only as a reference. So, as I discussed in the previous videos, my main preparation source was the rapid revision. I started my first read at the end of the August and completed it by the end of the December or the first week of January. I have already made a separate video about the sources I used and my daily schedule, so I won't repeat those here. I have also made some mistakes, but it's not like my preparation is always on correct path. And later, I corrected those mistakes. Like I took a small break during Diwali and didn't study for a few days, and I think this happens with everyone. And that too pushed my timeline and created unnecessary stress. But whatever happened, just forget it and move on. Don't waste time in thinking कि यार अब मेरा क्या होगा. Now so let's talk about the first read. For me, the first read was supposed to be the slow, thorough, and focused on active recall. Remember, only in the first and the second read you actually get time to do the proper active recall of all. Later reads happens closer to the exam, and because of a time pressure, you have to be selective. You don't recall everything then. So build the foundation now. First read is not about the speed and it's about the retention. Now, one more very important thing. I have seen that many students who just passively read the material and then they say, I forget everything, my sources are not good, and my content is not sticking. But the problem is not the source, the problem is zero active recall. If you only keep reading, your mind is in comfort mode. You feel like you know it, but actually you forget it the moment you close the book. Active recall is non negotiable. So let's talk about how I did active recall in my first read. Let's take an example. Suppose I read the iron deficiency anemia from the pathology rapid revision. After finishing that topic, I used to close my eyes and try to recall everything I just read, like points, numbers, concepts, and everything. If I miss something, I would quickly look at it again, revise that part, and then move on to the next topic. So, no stress, no pressure, just recall. Then correct them and then move ahead. And this is what I want you to follow. Don't read just because you want to finish the book. Read because you want to understand and remember. Otherwise, you will run behind the speed, and in the end, you won't remember anything. Now, let me explain my strategy that I use across all the subjects. Let's take a surgery as an example. I would read the trauma chapter from the rapid revision, and immediately after reading that topic, I would do a 50 questions custom model on the trauma. The tags I used were AIMS, ReSeNet, Clinical, and Image Based. Rest of the tags I used to feel useless. Then I moved to the next topic like thyroid. Then I read thyroid, again read a 50 questions custom model immediately. And this is how I completed surgery. Topic, custom model. And honestly, this same approach worked for the every subject. Now, many students get worried about their custom model scores. But remember this clearly that custom models are for the practice and not for the evaluation. When you solve the questions immediately after reading the topic, you are basically revising and applying the same content instantly. This builds memory and understanding. And most importantly, doing it immediately means it doesn't get postponed. Because let's be honest, when we say I will solve the questions at the end of the day, half the time we are tired or we don't get time at all. So the best approach is finish the topic, then do the MCQs, and then move on. After solving the custom models, one more thing I want to stress. Don't annotate everything and don't bookmark every wrong questions. Only write down what's not present in the rapid revision and what is directly previous year topic related. If you annotate every little thing, you will accidentally make another book. Keep it minimal, only the high yield previous year questions related points that you actually need to revise later. Don't fall into the FOMO trap that I must annotate every question. It's a waste of time and kills the revision speed. Once I finished a subject like surgery, I would immediately move to solve the year-wise previous year questions and annotate them into my rapid revision notes. Whether I got them right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Solve both the INI-CT and NET PG previous year questions. I use the different color highlighters like pink color for the NEET PG, and the green color for the INICT. This way, when I opened my rapid revision later, I already had past year questions and explanation right in front of my eyes. When you solve the previous year questions, don't just tick them, do the full explanations. If something is not present in the RR, then annotate it. I used to do the year-wise previous year questions from the marrow over 1 or 2 days per subject, and that was the focus time I gave to the previous year questions. Many people postpone the previous year questions to the last moment, thinking I will do them later, and then either they rush or don't find the time. Doing PYQs in your first read teaches how questions are framed, how the exam pattern shifts over the years, and which topics keep repeating. Once you know which topics are important, you can prioritize them in later reads and actually strengthen the weak areas. And again, don't worry about PYQ scores. Treat custom modules and PYQs as a practice and learning tools, not as a final evaluation. The aim is to build the understanding and pattern recognition, not to chase a percentage that will only stress you out. Now, after doing all these, the reading, the active recall, the custom modules, and these PYQs, you should give the subject wise test. And this is the actual evaluation tool for that subject. Custom modules are for practice, PYQs are for understanding the pattern, but subject wise test tells you where you really stand. If you are using a Marrow subject wise test, remember 5 to 10 questions are usually random, so don't panic looking at those. Just try to consistently hit around 35 corrects. That's a good benchmark in the first read or early phase. Now, coming to something that everyone goes through. After the first read, you will forget a lot, and this gives a massive self doubt. Even I felt like I spent so much time, but I barely remember anything. And honestly, this happens to the everyone. Don't stress, your brain is not supernatural. You won't remember information just by reading it once. You need multiple revisions before things start sticking into your head. And please don't make the mistake of changing your source after the first read. Many people think that I don't remember and maybe my source is bad. And they start switching notes. And that is the biggest trap. You don't need a new source, you need the revisions. Stick to the same material. Revision is what makes you remember, not switching the content. Also add the mnemonics or small tricks wherever you find them. This will help you to recall the faster, especially for the volatile subjects. You can watch the YouTube videos like Nikita Nanwani ma'am or anyone else who explain the mnemonics. There are plenty of mnemonics videos on the YouTube. Just go to the YouTube, search the topic you want, watch that trick, and annotate that mnemonic in your RR notes. And this is how exactly I completed my first read. Started with reading the notes, then doing the custom models, then doing the year-wise PYQs, and ended with a subject-wise test. Now, for factual subjects like Path, Pharma, Micro, Biochem, I followed a slightly different strategy. I use space revision. So let's say I finished my Pharma in my first read, the way I explained earlier. Now, after about 3 weeks or a month, I would give a 1 or 2 days just to passively read the Pharma again. No active recall, no MCQs, no subject wise test. Just a passive flip through so that I stay in touch with that subject. This is only for the factual ones. You don't need to do this for every subject. Also, start your first read with your strongest, favorite, most conceptual subject, something that gives you momentum in your preparation. For me, it was surgery, so I started from the surgery and placed the patho, pharma, micro towards the end of the first read, but keep them earlier in the second read. That way, you can minimize the gap between the two reads and you can retain more and keep the medicine and anatomy at the very end of your first read. Because even if you study them early, they don't give you confidence immediately and it might break your momentum. That's why I finished them at the end. One more thing in my first read, I always watch the rapid revision videos first and then read the notes. These made my reading faster and helped me understand the flow. But this was only for the first read. From second read onwards, I directly started with the reading the notes, no videos. I will explain the full second read strategy in another video. Now, the last part of this video is the grand test. How many grand tests should you give in your first read? I think once a month or once in a 3 weeks is more than enough. Don't expect good scores in this phase. Just give the test to understand that how the 19 subjects come together, whether you can sit for 3.5 hours, and whether you can maintain a focus. Learn how to analyze your mistakes. Scores will improve once you start doing your revisions and solving multiple MCQs. Let's summarize everything now. Start with the rapid revision videos, then read the rapid revision notes topic wise. After each topic, do your custom models. Don't delay them. Once you finish the whole subject, solve the year wise previous year questions, annotate whatever is important, and then end the subject with an subject wise test. That's the complete cycle I followed for every subject in my first year. I think that's it for today's video. I will be uploading more videos on how to overcome your self doubt, how to stop comparison, and a lot more. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you found this video helpful, do hit the like button, comment your doubts and suggestions below. I will try to answer as many as I can. Till then, stay consistent. Jai Hind.